wanted to say about it or whatever. So, all right, welcome back to another episode of The Horror with Mike
and Nate.
And this is a short review episode in which we are going to be going into the horror comedy from New Zealand, Housebound. Nate, do you want to kick us off?
Housebound just recently, after making its tour of the film circuit, getting a limited release, has finally shown up on Netflix, which means that everybody anywhere within the sound of our voices can watch it. Now,
yes.
the question is, should you?
Right.
Horror comedy is always really, really tricky to me.
Right. Well, comedy and horror in and of themselves are tricky, and then you combine the two, and it's like, shit.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And what I find is usually they will just default, and the balance is going to tilt towards comedy.
Sure, yeah.
There's always, in any horror movie, or most horror movies, not all, because it isn't there in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but in most horror movies, there is going to be a few moments of laughter just to release the tension from the previous scenes.
Some levity or whatever.
You know, and when blending that with, you know, a straightforward comedy, usually it can be more humorous than scary. And
sure.
I think Housebound is a very solid movie, although it does fall prey to that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Housebound is... we'll go ahead and start with the story. Generally, the story is an interesting one. It involves a troublemaking girl, probably about 20, something like that. And she, after being caught in a robbery, is sentenced to house arrest in a haunted house. That's the logline, that's the catch to the whole thing. So she has to move back home to her childhood home with her very funny, but slightly, I wouldn't say overbearing, with her mother. And there is a ghost haunting her house, and she cannot leave. So it's a hell of a starting premise.
Right. She leaves, she goes back to jail. So how much fear can you take before you decide to go back to jail?
Exactly. And I'll kick this off by saying that I absolutely loved the first two-thirds, the first two acts of this movie. I thought it had its comedy perfectly in check. I personally like New Zealand comedy, like Peter Jackson.
Their accents are adorable.
Yeah, their accents do a lot for this. The acting is really good. The probation officer is spot on. Physical comedy, slapstick. He's good to go. I liked him a lot.
You know, and I liked that I was caught off guard. The unexpected character, the probation officer, the one that needs to keep her locked up and is in charge of that. You wouldn't expect him to be a believer in the supernatural.
Oh, I love that.
That becomes
so
really
funny.
Interested in her case and wants to help her.
Yeah, that was so funny.
That was great.
Yeah, and there's really great. It's very well made. It's very, very well made.
It's fast-paced. It's fun.
Very fast-paced. From the very opening theft, it just starts moving and it doesn't stop. Like I said, it's very funny, great acting all the way across the board. A lot of intriguing. Is this a haunting? Is this a this, that, the other? All of this stuff. All builds to a last third that drops the ball. I felt completely.
Yeah. I would agree on that. You kept... you waited for the scares to sort of build, and it went in the opposite direction. It felt like it was building up, and... it just the wheels came off at the end.
Yeah, it not only do I think it went more for comedy, but also this is the biggest sin I think is that it changed the movie that we are watching. I don't want to say too much, but the first two acts are setting up that it's a certain kind of horror movie. And in the third act we get a twist, not only that call it a twist. It's a typical twist for this kind of movie. I just didn't know it was this kind of movie. Which something's revealed that is surprising. And then another twist that is not surprising at all changes the kind of horror movie it is into one that I don't particularly enjoy. And I did not enjoy the execution of that idea either.
Yeah, it falls back on a couple of cliches. I can't tell you what these two cliches are because it ruins it would ruin any suspense that you had if you are going to watch this movie.
Right.
But suffice to say that I could sum up in two very dismissive, pithy sentences, oh, this is stupid, and this is stupid. And it's just as easy as that. It's plot developments that I've seen done better in other movies, and I was tired.
In a lot of movies, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what started out as a movie that seemed so fresh and different
Right.
ended up really stale and the same.
Well, that's the biggest just sin, and it's really too bad, is that the movie has so much going for it, and it drops the ball. Like, I remember watching it, and I started telling people that I was like, ooh, do we have a new Edgar Wright on our hands? A new Sam Raimi. I thought it was that good. And, I mean, I would recommend it for its first hour. And I did go back and check. It is exactly an hour into it that the stuff I don't like starts happening. So, I would say watch the first hour. It's very strong. It's funny. It's very well done. It is cleverly shot, has a lot of energy to it. It works so well. And then it just falls apart.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
In the grand scheme of things, Housebound for me I'm going to give it 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
With a revision on that script and a new last half hour, we could be talking an entirely different picture here.
Yeah.
As it stands, there's enough good things about it that I'll give it a 6 out of 10, but I can't advise that you should rush out and go see it.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go 6 out of 10 too. I originally gave this, when we were doing 4 out of 4, I gave it a perfect score. And I'm actually going to kind of renege on that because I tried to watch it twice to figure out my thoughts on it, and just knowing where it was going ruined a second viewing for me, and I turned it off. And that is really too bad. It really is. I do think it is worth watching. And can you imagine if you do like the end?
Yeah.
Like how awesome of a horror movie this is going to be for you if you really like the end. And it is wildly popular. It's like 96% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
So yeah, we seem to be in the minority of not caring for this movie. So it might just be us, but yeah, it did not sit well.
Well,
with
maybe
me.
it's just us, but we're also just right about it.
I believe so. I do believe so.
Now, if anybody out there listening, if there's a movie you'd like for us to tackle, to review, you're not sure if it's going to be good or bad, and you're nervous about watching it, or you've seen it and love it or hate it and want our opinion, you can reach us through social media.
Yeah.
Fright Flicks with a CKS at the end. That's on Twitter and Facebook, and you can reach me, Nate Flicks, that's with an X, also through those same social media platforms.
Yep. Okay, and we will return with a full hour-long episode of the horror for you coming up soon here, and more reviews popping up randomly, so keep your eyes open for those, and we'll see you next time, guys.
All right.